President Biden, because he just said, when answering the question, would you support Israel's response to Iran hitting their nuclear sites? He said the answer is no. So why should we feel like Iran is a responsible player on the global stage to actually have nuclear weaponry?
Good morning, Maria. It's unbelievable to me that the president would say, well, I shouldn't say it's unbelievable. That's been his tact all along. Israel has the right to defend itself. For those of us who know history, the way we took out the German regime was we bombed their oil sites. We cut off their infrastructure. We did the things that we had to do because let's remember, they attacked us. They killed about millions and millions of Jews. Iran is exporting terror. Why do we have to somehow play fair with them? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why that's his first answer. No, don't touch their nuclear sites. He's got to explain that. I mean, he really needs to explain that. I mean, that and all the other fires that are happening all across the world, he needs to explain. It's day 3 of this strike, the East and Gulf Coast port strike. Nearly half of American shipping hangs in the balance. Workers are vowing to stay on the picket line until a deal is reached, and Vice President Kamala Harris has voiced her support for the unions on the picket line. She wrote this yesterday: "This strike is about fairness. Foreign-owned shipping companies have made record profits. The longshoremen deserve a fair share of these record profits." As nearly 300 trade associations are now urging President Biden to invoke the Taft-Hartley and stop the strike before it becomes an issue for the economy and national security. Biden claims he will not invoke this law, but he acknowledged that some impacts of the strike are happening. Here's what he said yesterday. Watch.
We're getting pushback already. We're hearing from the folks regionally that they're having trouble getting the product they need because of the port strike. And look, there's a consortium of basically 6 owners that control all the ports from all the way to the East Coast down around the Gulf. And they've made incredible profits, over 800% profit since the pandemic. And the owners are making tens of millions of dollars in this. The last thing they need is to profit off of this. It's time for them to sit at the table and get this strike done.
Congressman, here, too, you've got Joe Biden siding with the strikers on the picket lines. Look, I don't know who's right here, but why is it always the corporation's fault? Right? They want a 77% raise, and immediately you see Kamala Harris and Joe Biden siding with the strikers. I mean, is this all political? Are they just that desperate for the union vote?
They've been that desperate for a long time, Maria. The Taft-Hartley Act, by the way, was passed in 1947 by Congress over Truman's veto. That's how big of a deal it was. They understood that when there was a national need for Americans, that there was a time when the president could intervene. But you're going to see Biden and Harris do all these things. It's campaign time, and they're not going to step in on behalf of the American people. They're not going to invoke that for an 80-day cooling off period. They're just not, and that should surprise nobody.
I mean, why not? You know, we're actually about to feel the impact of this a crisis in the middle of the other crisis that we're dealing with, the border crisis. We've got a new report which shows several federal agencies did not assess the risk of releasing non-citizens into the country and letting them board domestic flights without ID. Okay, Customs and Border Protection, Immigration, Customs Enforcement, and the Transportation Security Administration, all implicated in this report by the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General. CBP and ICE accept self-reported biographical information on immigration forms. Can you imagine? They just accept whatever these migrants are going to tell them. Then they allow them to get on domestic flights without IDs. I mean, no kidding that they didn't assess the risks. A separate DHS threat report sounds the alarm on the terrorist threat presented at the border as well. That report writes this: over the next year, we expect some individuals with terrorism ties and some criminal actors will continue their efforts to exploit migration flows. Meanwhile, President Biden claims he's extending asylum restrictions now. After 4 years of a wide-open border, now he's expanding restrictions on asylum 33 days before the election, Congressman. I mean, this administration has put this country in dire jeopardy.
Well, you said it earlier, Maria, that suddenly the president has gotten religion. What he needs is repentance. You know, he needs to come. He needs to have he needs to come back for American people. If you knew all the facts, and I'm sure y'all do, as of July 24, more than 7 million illegal aliens are under final orders for removal, but are not detained. They don't know where they are. And you can go through this, the women and the girls that have been raped and tortured, some of them killed. It's unbelievable that this would be their posture. But yes, all of a sudden, it's election time, and now he has religion. Too little, too late.
For what
you
reason?
And I can't fly like that, Maria.
For what reason did he leave these borders wide open? I mean, every American should be outraged. We've had murders, rapes, and we have these people still walking around the country. And now this report from DHS, they all should have accountability for what they've done these last 4 years.
Well, absolutely. And the president is at the top of that. Kamala Harris is at the top of that. Supposedly being the border czar. She never went. You remember the infamous, she was talking to some reporter and he says, have you been to the border? And she laughed. And she said, no, but I've not been to Europe either, if you remember that.
Yeah, of course
they don't have any accountability. They don't have any accountability. They don't care what happens to Americans. Most of us think that they want more people in congressional districts so that they can win more seats.
That's it. It's about the vote. Once again, all politics all the time. Forget national security. Forget your safety. Congressman, thank you. Randy Weber joining us this morning.
Thank you,
and we'll be
Maria.
right back.